Okay, hello and welcome to this walkthrough. This is a case called It's Coming Home, which as you can see was from the UK qualifiers round 3. This was a fun case from the point of view of the subject matter, all based on the British or UK and Ireland football teams at World Cups. In honour, I'm wearing my Scotland shirt today, which is particularly poignant because Scotland beat Haiti last night for our first World Cup win in 36 years, so very appropriate. Although most of the questions in this focus on England's performance, which I'm not going to have any issue with because I've lived in England most of my life despite Scottish heritage. But there we go. Anyway, that's enough about me. I'm going to go through this case quite quickly, having looked at it now, following doing it. It's definitely solvable within half an hour, though I don't think anyone actually got full marks yesterday. But yes, and I'll explain a little bit about things that I did during the live case that I'm not going to do during this walkthrough, and vice versa, because I didn't get full marks either, but I did do well enough to qualify out the third time of asking. So yeah, that's enough about me and my progress. Let's get started. I'm going to time this just so we have an idea of how long it would take. So starting off, first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to go to the data and I'm going to name all of this. I'm going to change that to match, just get rid of the hash symbol, change this team 1 and team 2 without the space, select it all, Control Shift F3, and then we've got our named ranges, which is going to make pretty much all the rest of the case much easier. So on the first case, how many matches are in the data set for each given year? So this is just a simple count if the year matches these numbers here, and we can use an array for that. So that's round 1 done. Then the question, who was the last team England played for the given year? If they'd played no matches, who did just put not qualified? So what we're going to do is we're going to X look up name England and the year in the team 1 and year column, returning the team 2, and if there is nothing, then that will be not qualified. To make sure we only find the most recent, we're going to use the -1 search option, which gives us Uruguay for the first one, and when we fill that down, we get all of the rest. Okay, level 3, how many matches did the given team play between the start and end is shown. So for this one, I'm going to build out a data table. We're going to filter a H stack of team 1 and team 2 because we need to know both teams, because the other home nations sometimes appear as team 2, and we need to include everything where the year is greater than or equal to the value in B1 and the year is less than or equal to the value in C1, and that will give us the teams. Then we just need to know the sum of double minus of when these values equal the value in D1, which I've put an extra comma in there for some random reason. I think that's right. Hopefully that's not messed up my formula. And we're pointing to that. And we go return level 3, and they're all correct. Okay, level 4, find out all the matches played against the country shown, and then give out points for wins, losses, and draws. So again, I'm going to use a data table. What I'm going to do is do a similar thing to before. So I'm going to filter where we want to find the result, the winner, which returns the result or the thing, and we want to include where team 1 equals England and team 2 equals the value in B1 for this first one, which means we've had a draw, an England win, and then a Belgium win. We'll fill that to the right field when we have more than one team, which we have in the later questions. I'm going to just create a little lookup over here that if the winner is England, they get 3 points. If it's a draw, they get 1 point. If it's anyone else, it's going to be 0 points. So then we're going to do an X lookup on this value in here, fix that cell reference, same with the points, fix that cell reference. If not found, return a 0 because it means they weren't the winner, it wasn't a draw, which in this case we get 1300. We're then going to sum those up, and when I put that to the right, we'll get errors. So when we don't have a team, we're going to have an error. So let's just put if error and return that as 0. So now when we feel right, we get all numbers, and then we're just going to sum those 3 numbers, which gives us 4 for the first example, gives us 15 for the second, and that looks good, and we're all correct on level 4. Okay, level 5, this caught me out in the real thing. I'll try and explain why as we go through. So it's actually it says there are 28 cities where England have never lost a match, so they might have drawn or won but never lost, and then sort them in order from the one with the most times it happens. So England match at the top, and if there's a tie, then the one that's had the most recent match. So I'm going to use a data table mainly just to give me some space, and I'm actually going to use a formula I don't think I've ever used in a live case before, but I've started using more, which is a pivot by. So we want to know every city as rows, and actually before I do this, I'm going to create an extra column, and I'm going to call this outcome. And basically what I want to know is if the result was England or the result was draw, then I want to know that result, but otherwise I want to say that the opponent won. So I'm going to just put opposite for opponent, and I'm going to fill that down, and I'm going to name that range as in the same way I did before. We've now got an outcome range, because what I want to do here is I want to say pivot by the city. So I want cities as rows, I want the outcomes as columns, and I also want the outcome as my values, and I want to count how many appear of each. And the vital thing here is that right down here at the very end of the list of things we can do, there's a filter away, and we're going to put where team 1 equals England, so only look at those results. And we end up with this table showing every city and where's a draw an England win or an England win or the opposition win. And what we want to know, going back to the question, is the 28 cities where England have never lost. So what I want to do is filter the range of cities where the opposition winning equals nothing. So England have never lost, and then we get our 28. And when I first did this, I ended up with 38, and I can't remember exactly how I got it wrong. I think I looked at those where England had only ever won or something like that. Anyway, that's wasting time. Now what I want to do is I want to find out how many times they appeared. So I'm going to just reference this, and I can just use my pivot table results to find out how many times they appeared. And then I also want to know what the most recent one is. So I'm going to XLOOKUP the city in city and return the match number. And I'm going to use match search mode from bottom to last to get the most recent, so the highest, which is better. And then I'm going to use sort by, because I want to sort the cities by the matches in descending order and the match numbers in descending order. And that gives me my list, and then all I have to do in here is index into that range using the value for the question. And we return to our case, and we see that we're all correct on level 5. Level 6 I actually found easier than level 5, judging by the fact they got level 6 right and level 5 not. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create, I'm going to join together the shot and save combos. I'm going to name this range as saves, which I didn't do this in the real thing, I just copied it over to the sheet, but this would have saved me time because you then can use it in level 7 as well. Data table this, we're going to text split the B1 value on the commas. I'm then going to wrap this inside a wrap rows so that we then end up with kind of the two teams of penalties. So this is the first team and then this is the second team. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to X match these values in my saves list. And actually if it returns an error, it means it wasn't saved. So actually that means it's a goal. So I'm going to say is error. And that means they then get true for the penalties that are scored and one's false for the ones that are saved. And then I can just use bicol on this to sum them. And we get our two scores, 5 and 2. And then we'll just say that. And we'll join it with a V and that. That gives us 5v2. And in the real thing, I was slightly worried. I overcomplicated it because I built this dynamically because I thought there might be questions where it went to sudden death and would have more than one penalty, more than 5 penalties, which that's not in the question, so that was annoying. And then level 7 is going to build on a similar thing, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to unmerge this for reasons we'll see in a second. So this is the last penalty, this is whether they scored, this is whether they saved on the previous one. And annoyingly, what stopped me from finishing this level was that on this question I didn't really realize this table was here. I just read the description, so I ended up building my own version of this table in the sheet, and that's why I ran out of time. And I'm I'd like to think that if I had realised that table was there, I might have finished that level in time, but who knows. So we're going to do something similar to before. So we're going to start with text splitting D1 this time, because that's got the saves order. We're going to do the same thing as before, where we're going to wrap rows that in 2, and that gives us our 2 teams. And then for the benefit of making this a little clearer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this is England. Their first penalty shot is in B1. Their saves I will take from this, the first column, and then what we want to know is, was it scored? And so what we're going to do is we're going to use the same formula as before. So is error X match, but we're going to take this value and concatenate. Oh, need to do this the right way around. Take this value, concatenate with that, and see if it appears in our saves list. If it doesn't, then it's a save. Oh, sorry, if it doesn't, then it's a goal. And then what we do here is we say, right, X look up the previous shot. So X look up the previous shot in the last range, and then if this equals 1, so if they scored, then we look in the scored range. If not, we look in the saved range, and that should give us our next penalty. And we can then fill that down. Can fill this down, and we can see that for England we've got 2, which is right. So I'm then just going to copy this for our opposition. This should refer to C1, and the saves will refer to this, but we want the second column or the last column, so we took -1 there, and we see they get 3. So let's sum up this range, copy that formula over here, and we get 2 versus 3. So we're just going to say that and a V, and that gives us our final answer. And again, I thought they might include sudden death penalty, so I kind of overcomplicated by trying to build it to dynamically grow if there were more than 5 rows of penalties, which again slowed me down. So reasons why I didn't finish that level are becoming clear. Right, we're on to the bonuses. How many different World Cup years in the matches data set? So we're going to count the unique values in year. This one, when did England actually bring it home? I actually looked this up. I know the answer off by heart because most people in the UK do. But then I suddenly thought, what if they faked some of the data? So I went down to 1966 and I saw, yep, they were the final winners. I thought maybe they'd, not faked it, but made some of it fictionalised. There are 4 countries against whom England have lost every World Cup match they played. I didn't get this in the real thing because it was just awkwardly worded. So there are 4 countries against whom England have lost every World Cup match they played. So I'm going to do a new sheet, and again I'm going to use my pivot by, which again I've not used in a real life case yet, but I think it could be useful for some of these bonuses. So it's based on again, I need to read the question. These are 4 countries against whom England have lost every World Cup match. So we're looking at we want to know as our rows, type this right, team 2, because England are always team 1, and then we want to know the outcome as the column headers and the outcome as the values, counting everything, in other words counting how many times it happens, and again going all the way down to that filter row where team 1 equals England, and that gives us our table. And again I have to read the question, against whom England have lost. So this time we want to filter the list of countries where the opposition winning is the same as the total number of matches, and we get 4. And then let's just X look up these teams in the list and how many times they've met, and we see that Italy are the only team that've got 2 there, so the answer is Italy. And then question 4, in which city has England played the most matches without ever winning? So very similar to the last one, most cities without winning. So again, I did get this one in the live case, but not using this method. I can't quite remember how I actually did it, but we're going to use city, outcome, count all, go to our filter away, team 1 equals England. So this time we're looking for cities where they've played the most matches without ever winning. So this time we want to filter the city where the England being the winner equals nothing, and we actually get quite a few. And then we want to X look up the city in the city and how many matches they've met, because we want the one who's the most. And when we look through, we see that 3 only appears once, which is Gothenburg. So we'll copy that over just so we get the spelling right. And then finally, if all the penalty shootouts take place one after another, what is the highest number of consecutive penalties? So I'm going to make a copy of level 7 for this bonus. And what we need to do is we need to get all the penalties back in order. So I'm going to H stack this array and this array, and that gives me the penalties side by side, and then I'm going to 2 row them so they're all in one order, and then I'm going to concat them, which puts them into text. And then what we want to do is make that the actual result, and then what we're going to do is we're going to concatenate all of the games, not including the example. I'm then going to, this is the first time I'm going to use my lambdas just to speed things up, so I'm going to use my text, can't type, text characters to, I've put a minus in front of that for some reason, text characters on this to split them, and I'm going to use the consecutives array on that, which counts the consecutives, and then I'm just going to go search for the max of that, which gives me 25. And there we are, job done. How long did that take? 15 minutes. Okay. A little bit of commentating going along, as I said, trying to explain what I could have done. On that last question, just quickly show you how you would do the lambda if you didn't have the lambda, the consecutives lambda. So if you want to know when something changes, so let's just reference that cell first. So we then need to know kind of the previous. So we could say take this and drop the last row. So we're then comparing the first with the previous. And what I tend to do is I actually stack that with an empty cell first. So because on the first one there is no previous penalties compared, so you can't say whether it's the same. Then we want to know whether this is the same as that, so has it changed or not, and something's gone wrong there. Because I need to drop the last row. Is that right? No, what have I done wrong here? No, I did this yesterday and now I can't work it out. So those things, so I need to drop from that 1 row. Then I need to, I need to I'm going to V-stack at the end in this occasion, just to save time. So then I want to check whether that equals that, and we see some trues and some falses, and then I'm going to scan through this. So starting on 1, going through this array, building a lambda with an accumulator and a value, and we're going to say if the current value is true, which means it was the same as before, we're going to say accumulator plus 1, otherwise reset to 1. And can't type scan, and then I can do the same thing. Max of that is 25. Okay, so that's how you could do that without a lambda. Not a particularly neat explanation, and obviously the consecutives one is much better. But yeah, good fun case. I didn't get to appreciate some of the polite digging happening at the England football team as I was going along, but having read it through afterwards, that's quite good, nice information. But from yeah, a good fun case. As I said, third time of asking qualify for the UK final, so I'm very happy with that. And I hope if you were watching you found that helpful. Even if you weren't, I find it helpful to do this process because it forces me to really understand the case and some of the logic and the mechanics behind it. So thank you very much.